It is Sunday, June 3rd, 2012. I'm in front of the Unitarian Church of Montreal conducting my usual protest against Unitarian Universalist, anti-religious intolerance and bigotry, Unitarian Universalist clergy misconduct of all kinds, both sexual misconduct and non-sexual forms of clergy misconduct, and a variety of other injustices and abuses committed by Unitarian Universalists in general and Unitarian Universalist clergy in particular. Today I think I'm going to celebrate as the official 14th anniversary of my protest in front of the Unitarian Church of Montreal. My protest began actually in May of 1998, but it didn't receive any public attention in terms of news reports until, if I'm not mistaken, June 4th of 1998. Article in the Montreal Mirror written by journalist Jackie Charlton titled "Spitting in God's Eye" reported on my protest after it had been going for a few weeks. So I think we can use that newspaper report as kind of an official starting point of the protest. And today I actually have some interesting new developments. I just received email from a legal firm in Montreal, Stikeman Elliott. This is a printout of the PDF file that they sent me, and it's really quite interesting. Parts of it are actually quite funny. But basically they are, well, it's Stikeman Elliott is the legal firm. The lawyer in question is Marc-André Coulombe. They are representing the Unitarian Universalist Association and a couple of Unitarian Universalist ministers against me. So I think I can take what's written in this legal letter as representations made on behalf of the Unitarian Universalist Association, not just the church locally. In fact, the local church here is not even mentioned in this letter, nor are any of the ministers mentioned in this letter local. They're American Unitarian Universalist clergy south of the border. But basically, they are accusing me of threatening and defamatory statements against the Unitarian Universalist Association and threatening and defamatory conduct amounting to sexual harassment against women Unitarian Universalist ministers. So that's the two accusations in general that they're bringing against me. I think I'll just read the letter out loud so you can hear what it has to say. It says, "Sir, we are the Canadian attorneys for the Unitarian Universalist Association, in brackets, the association, and certain women ministers who are members of the association. Our clients have directed our attention to your blog entitled The Emerson Avenger, and to other content posted by yourself on the internet which specifically targets the association and certain of its female ministers. While the laws of Quebec protect your freedom of expression, you have no right to threaten, defame, or harass people. Your web posting stating that a certain minister, whom you name, sucks and blows at the same time, and a certain other minister whom you also name has a sodomy fantasy, are libelous, defamatory, and given the frequency and repetitiousness of your postings on the subject, constitute acts of sexual harassment. Your posting of photographs of a female minister with the word bitch superimposed and emailing ministers, warning them not to mess around with you, and other similar statements are equally threatening, sexually harassing, and unprotected by any form of freedom of expression you may enjoy under Quebec law." And this is where it gets really quite interesting. Your unfounded and vicious allegations to the effect that ministers of the association engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape are similarly defamatory to an extent such that they constitute blasphemous libel, which is prohibited under Section 296 of the Criminal Code, RSC 1985 C 461. Accordingly, you are hereby put on notice to immediately A. Take down all web postings you have made concerning the association and its women ministers that are or could be considered sexually oriented and or defamatory. B. Cease and desist from posting on the internet defamatory or sexually oriented comments about the association and its women ministers and cease and desist from making threatening or sexually oriented comments to ministers orally and or in writing. We trust that those requests will be fully implemented by the close of business on June 4th, 2012, i.e. tomorrow. In the interim, by the way, the i.e. tomorrow is just my addendum to that. It's not in the letter. It was actually sent on May 29th. Well, it was written on May 29th. I actually received it by email on Friday, June 1st. Just to finish up here, it says, in the interim, be advised that nothing in this letter is intended, nor should it be construed, to constitute a waiver of any and all of the association's and its ministers' legal rights and remedies, all of which are hereby expressly reserved. Do govern yourself accordingly. Stikeman Elliott, LLP, Marc-André Coulombe, signature. That's it. So that's the content of the letter I received from Stikeman and Elliott. And the most ridiculous part of this letter is the part accusing me of blasphemous libel. It is ridiculous in a variety of different ways. It starts off by saying your unfounded and vicious allegations to the effect that ministers of the association engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape are similarly defamatory, to an extent that they constitute blasphemous libel, which is prohibited under Section 296 of the Criminal Code. Well, there's a bit of a problem here. First of all, my allegations that a certain number of ministers of the Unitarian Universalist Association have engaged in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape are by no means unfounded. They are in fact based on solid evidence, including publicly available information that can be found on the internet that's reliable, coming from reliable news sources. In fact, I'm actually not accusing a whole lot of Unitarian ministers of rape or pedophilia. In fact, to the best of my knowledge, I haven't even accused one single Unitarian minister of pedophilia to date. That does not mean to say that no Unitarian ministers have committed pedophilia. I'm just saying I haven't actually made that accusation, yet they are accusing me of this. I think they're getting a little confused, because I did speak about a Unitarian Universalist layperson, i.e. not a minister, a member of a church, actually a member of the church of one of the female ministers mentioned here, who was actually found guilty of forcible rape of minors. And I did refer to him as a pedophile rapist. I think that was fully justified in that the young female children that he forcibly raped were preteen girls, specifically around 10 to 12 years old at the time of the rapes. So again, my allegations about a certain number of Unitarian ministers and a certain Unitarian Universalist layperson are not unfounded at all. Therefore, they are not libelous. They are capital T truth. So right off the bat, this is wrong. But then it goes on to say that this type of allegation is defamatory to the extent that it constitutes the crime of blasphemous libel. There is in fact a crime of blasphemous libel on the Canadian Criminal Code. It hasn't been acted upon since the dirty 30s, if you want to use that term. I can't remember the exact date off the top of my head. I only just became aware of this recently, and I've only just started researching this. But essentially, nobody has been charged with blasphemous libel, or at least no charges have been prosecuted since the early 1930s. So they're really, they're really trying hard to find a law to hit me with. But the fact of the matter is, blasphemous libel, as defined, and it's actually very poorly defined in the Canadian Criminal Code. There's almost no definition of it. However, in other definitions of blasphemous libel, such as the British law, which by the way was repealed a while back because it's basically unconstitutional, in those definitions of blasphemous libel, the crime is basically libeling a whole religion. Basically making statements that are so insulting and defamatory that it would cause extreme, basically cause extreme discomfort and pain and so on to the members of the religion. Well, I'm sorry, but regardless of whether or not my allegations about Unitarian ministers are true or false, this is not an attack on the religion. This is this is simply speaking about, you know, clergy sexual misconduct, or indeed non-clergy sexual misconduct, committed by members of the religion. So this is not an attack on the religion itself. It's basically saying certain individuals that behaved in a criminal manner, specifically engaged in pedophilia and rape. So it is just ridiculous that they would even use these grounds to accuse me of blasphemous libel. So they're way off base here. I could say more about the other allegations. In fact, I think I will briefly. The part about a minister who I name and say sucks and blows at the same time, there's nothing sexual about that. Essentially, I'm speaking about the minister being hypocritical, and I'm using the term sucks and blows at the same time in the sense of doing two contradictory actions at the same time. The term sucks and blows at the same time can readily mean being hypocritical, you know, saying something and then doing the exact opposite within a very short period of time. So again, there's nothing sexual in there. Yes, these terms sex and blows do have sexual connotations, but in the context that they were being used in that particular blog post, there's nothing sexual about them. Therefore, I do not see how they can be construed as sexual harassment against this particular female minister. And then it says, and a certain other minister who you also name, and I don't mind saying who it is, it's Reverend Dr. Victoria Weinstein, also known as Peace Bang, a Unitarian Universalist blogger. One of the most in-your-face, rude and offensive Unitarian Universalist ministers I've ever had the misfortune to have any dealings with at all. It says, you say she has a sodomy fantasy. This is in quotation marks, it's an actual quote, and yes, I do. The fact of the matter is that I'll say Reverend Victoria Weinstein, because this happened before she became a Reverend Doctor, back in around, I think it was 2006, in a Peace Bang blog post, actually posted the following words, and this is pretty well 100% accurate quote. Here's my sodomy fantasy. Senator Bill Napoli anally impaled on the Statue of Liberty's torch. These are her exact words, or a very, very close approximation of what she wrote on her Peace Bang blog post. So this is not libel. This is not libel, and I don't see how it can possibly be construed sexual harassment against Reverend Dr. Weinstein for me to talk about this sexual, innuendo that she posted on the internet. I am simply discussing some pretty rude and offensive behavior on her part. So how this constitutes sexual harassment against her, I really don't know. In fact, and I think I'm going to wind up this video clip on this note, it would seem to me that her words, here's my sodomy fantasy, Senator Bill Napoli anally impaled on the Statue of Liberty's torch, are basically could be construed as sexual harassment of Senator Bill Napoli. And this was very public. It could even be construed as threats. I mean, I personally do not consider this over-the-top sodomy fantasy of Reverend Dr. Victoria Weinstein to be an actual threat against Senator Bill Napoli, but nonetheless, she's speaking about anally impaling someone on a very large, blunt object. To me, this could certainly be construed as a threat, and certainly more threatening than anything I've said about Unitarian Universalist ministers. So on that note, I'm just going to wind up this little video clip about this latest incident. But I just want to bring to attention this picket sign here, which says Unitarian hypocrisy and hubris, suck you, ask us you. I mean, this is a perfect example right here of Unitarian Universalist hubris, not to mention hypocrisy. To accuse me of sexual harassment of Reverend Dr. Victoria Weinstein because I talk about her sexual harassment, if you wish, of Senator Bill Napoli is outrageous hypocrisy, and as far as I'm concerned, it's pretty much hubris. And the same can be said about the whole blasphemous libel allegation. Is ridiculous because I'm speaking about some specific actions by specific Unitarian ministers. I'm not slandering the Unitarian Universalist, the religious community as a whole in any means. I'm not saying anything that cannot be corroborated. Meanwhile, Unitarian Universalist ministers, including, by the way, the current president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, who is apparently sending me this letter. I mean, I assume that Reverend Peter Morales approved of this letter being sent to me. He is actually far more guilty of public statements which could readily fit the description of blasphemous libel than I am. He, in his speech announcing his candidacy for president of the UUA, before he was actually elected as president of the UUA, he made statements to the effect that Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and a variety of other what he called old religions lead to tribalism and prejudice and a few other things of that nature. He went on to describe them as obsolete religions which lead to the darkness of, again, a variety of things such as, I can't remember the exact words off the top of my head, but prejudice and so on. You know, basically, Reverend Peter Morales' words that are a public statement made in a sermon that he delivered, and actually they can still be found on the internet, although he did delete the original sermon, and he did delete the video that actually recorded these words. This has disappeared, but there's nonetheless evidence of it still available. You know, this is far, far closer to being blasphemous libel as defined by the British common law tradition than my accusations about a certain number of, actually just a few Unitarian ministers or lay people who are in fact guilty of pedophilia and rape. That's it for now.